Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we dig into the stories that make the dairy industry more than just a livelihood. It's a way of life. Today's episode is one of those rare tales that will leave you in awe of the human spirit. Imagine being 11 years old and told you need a heart transplant, or surviving a fire that leaves you fighting for 662 days in a hospital, or facing paralysis after a routine farm task goes wrong. These aren't fictional plots. They're the real-life battles of three young dairy farm girls, Lexi Anderson, Reese Burdette, and Sydni Mell. In this episode, we'll explore how their upbringing in the relentless, nurturing world of dairy farming forged a resilience that carried them through unimaginable crises. You'll hear how auction barns turned into fundraisers, how a beloved cow became a lifeline, and how communities from Wisconsin to Pennsylvania rallied in ways only farm folks can. Stick with us as we dive into stories of grit, grace, and the unbreakable bonds of agriculture. Let's get started.
You know, we often talk about milk prices, feed costs, the sort of day-to-day business side of dairy farming.
I mean, the practicalities.
Exactly. But when you really dig deeper into the heart of this industry, you find something else, something, profound. It's the strength of the people.
That's so true. It's a strength that often gets, overlooked in the bigger picture discussions, but it really shines through when folks face personal adversity.
Right. Beyond the balance sheets, like you said. And we come across these just incredible stories of courage, personal battles that really show the resilience in the dairy community.
And that's what we wanted to explore in this deep dive. We're focusing on three really remarkable journeys of young women, all deeply connected to the dairy world, who faced absolutely life-threatening challenges.
Their experiences, they just offer such a powerful insight into that resilience we mentioned, but also the community bonds, the spirit that defines this industry, really.
These aren't just stories about getting through something tough. They're about the human spirit, maybe amplified by growing up on a farm, Mm-hmm. And the community support is just, it's central.
We're talking about Lexi Anderson, Reese Burdette, and Sydni Mell. Three young women who stared down some unimaginable odds.
Yeah, Lexi, a young Jersey enthusiast facing sudden, severe heart failure.
And Reese, enduring the trauma of a devastating fire, incredible injuries.
And Sydni, whose life changed instantly after a farm accident led to paralysis. Each story is different, but together, they tell us something important.
So our mission today, if you like, is to understand their journeys. The obstacles, yes, but also the support systems, the sheer strength they showed.
And maybe explore how that deep connection to dairy life, to the farms, to the animals, might have played a role in their resilience. And what lessons, what we can all take away from this.
Because these stories, they really speak to hope, don't they? And the power of community and that inner strength we all have somewhere, especially for folks in dairy facing challenges daily. These will resonate, I think.
Definitely. So maybe let's start with Lexi's story. It's such a stark reminder of how quickly life can throw you a curveball health-wise.
Absolutely. So Lexi Anderson, she's from Meadow Ridge Jersey farm up in Wisconsin. Just a young girl, totally passionate about showing jerseys. Involved from a really early age.
It sounds like a typical happy farm kid life centered around the cows.
Pretty much. But then, late 2023, she starts getting these dizzy spells. During basketball games, of all things, seemed minor at first.
It wasn't minor at all, was it? The diagnosis at just 11 years old? Restrictive cardiomyopathy, RCM, that's a really tough one.
Yeah, it's rare. Aggressive heart failure, the heart muscle gets stiff, can't fill properly. And the prognosis often isn't good without major intervention, like a transplant.
Just devastating news for her and her family. Imagine hearing that, 11 years old.
It's hard to fathom. But what happened next? That really shows you the community she's part of. The word got out about Lexi's diagnosis.
And the response was immediate, wasn't it? The Love for Lexi campaign kicked off, a website for updates, coordinating support.
It wasn't just thoughts and prayers, though. That was there, too. It was action, tangible action, like that event at the Barron County Fair in July 2024.
Oh, that story is incredible. Tell us about that.
Well, Lexi's market lambs didn't quite make the auction cut, which is always a bummer for a kid showing, right?
Sure is.
But then Holly Hargrave, another young show person, only 13, she steps up. she decides to donate her prize lamb, one that could have been grand champion, to be auctioned off purely for Lexi's medical fund.
Wow, a 13-year-old doing that. That's something else.
And then the auction itself, the lamb gets bought, and then the buyer immediately donates it back to be sold again.
No way.
Yes, and it happens again. And again, 4 times in total, this one lamb is bought and resold, each time adding to Lexi's fund.
So how much did they raise in the end from that one lamb?
An incredible $27,000.
$27,000 from one lamb through sheer generosity. That's community right there.
It's more than the money, though, isn't it? It's the empathy, peer-to-peer, young people looking out for each other, the whole community investing in her fight.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the values, that sense of shared responsibility you see in agricultural communities, just stepping up.
So after that amazing show of support, Lexi and her family still faced that agonizing wait for a heart, waiting for the call.
The uncertainty must have been immense, but the call did come, right? In January 2025.
Yes, finally. A potential heart. Such a beacon of hope. The transplant surgery happened at Children's Hospital of Milwaukee.
And her progress afterwards, from what the sources say, was pretty remarkable, quick even.
Yeah, just days later, the breathing tube was out. She was sitting up, even taking a few steps. It's amazing, really. Testament to her strength, the medical team.
Incredible. But a transplant, it's not the end of the story, is it? It's the start of a new chapter, a different kind of challenge.
Exactly. It's a new normal. Lifelong anti-rejection meds, which means a suppressed immune system needing constant monitoring. It requires real discipline.
And that's where, her farm background might actually be an advantage.
How so?
Well, think about farm life. The routine, the structure, the need for consistent care, attention to detail with animals, it's ingrained from a young age.
Ah, I see what you mean. That discipline, that sense of responsibility.
Exactly. It could be a real asset for managing her new health regimen. That structured approach might just be second nature to her.
That's a really interesting point. The very lifestyle, giving her the tools she needs. Okay, let's shift now to Reese Burdette. Her story is just an incredible testament to the will to survive and family support.
Reese's family, Windy Knoll View Farm in Pennsylvania, they're well known in the Holstein world, right? A strong reputation, respected breeders.
Definitely. So Reese grew up immersed in that world,
Yeah.
showing cattle, part of that legacy. Everything seemed, set.
And then Memorial Day weekend 2014, that devastating fire at her grandparents' home.
Started so suddenly, they think an electrical cord.
Yeah.
And her grandmother, Patricia Stiles, acted heroically, pulling Reese from the flames.
Just unimaginable terror. And her grandmother's bravery came at a huge cost to herself, too, didn't it? Both were severely injured.
Terribly injured. Reese had burns over about 35% of her body, plus serious heart and lung damage from the smoke. And they ended up in different hospitals in different cities.
Reese at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, her grandmother at MedStar in D.C. The strain on her parents must have been unbearable, traveling between 2 critical care units.
It's hard to even comprehend. And Reese's time in the PICU at Johns Hopkins. It was unbelievably long, 662 days.
662 days. The details are just staggering. Medically induced coma.
Multiple cardiac arrests, collapsed lungs, internal bleeding.
Yeah.
She needed over 500 blood transfusions.
Plus the most advanced life support. ECMO, the heart-lung bypass machine, ventricular assist devices to help her heart pump. It's a miracle she survived that period.
And through all that, she suffered complications leading to the amputation of her leg and permanent hearing loss, too. It's just so much.
It really is almost too much for anyone, let alone a child, to endure.
But the sources, they consistently mentioned her fierce determination. And her parents were there, constantly, by her side through it all.
That family support, that unwavering presence. You see how vital that is. It's a lifeline.
Absolutely. And then there's an incredible story about her Holstein heifer, Pantene.
Oh, yes, Pantene. That's such a powerful part of her recovery narrative.
They actually brought the heifer to the hospital for a visit right when Reese was facing the huge challenge of just learning to stand again.
And that connection, seeing her heifer, it became this huge motivator for her physical therapy, didn't it?
Her mom said it was the only thing that could really get Reese to push through the pain and effort of rehab at times. It reconnected her to her life, her world, outside the hospital walls.
It's that human-animal bond in action. It also helped the hospital staff understand Reese better, understand what she was fighting to get back to.
Pantene became the symbol of hope, didn't she? Reese followed her progress, watched her shows on FaceTime from her bed.
Waiting for the day they'd be back on the farm together.
And that day finally came, March 2016. After 662 days, her homecoming sounds amazing, the whole town turning out, fire department escort.
And that reunion with Pantene must have been incredibly emotional.
But like Lexi, coming home wasn't the end of the medical journey. In 2017, she faced kidney failure.
Likely a long-term effect of all the treatments, the trauma her body went through, and finding a donor was tough because of antibodies from all those transfusions.
Another huge hurdle. But then, another moment of incredible generosity. Alyssa Hussey, moved by Reese's story, stepped forward to donate a kidney.
Just amazing. That gift gave Reese another chance, and her recovery kept progressing. Milestones like getting her track tube removed, surgery to improve the fit of her prosthetic leg.
She calls it Lego, right? Her prosthetic.
That's right. Each step was a victory.
Yep.
And then returning to the show ring.
That's the truly inspiring part. Starting in a wheelchair, then walking on her prosthetic. And in 2022, placing 5th in showmanship at the All-American Dairy Show.
An event that held so many memories for her. What an achievement. It just speaks volumes about her perseverance, her spirit. She refused to be defined by her injuries.
And she's still involved in FFA, 4-H, wants to give back, inspire others, plans for college, staying connected to agriculture. Her roots are strong.
A truly remarkable young woman. Her journey is incredible.
Now let's talk about Sydni Mell. Her story really highlights the inherent risks on farms and the kind of resilience needed when things go wrong.
Sydni grew up on her family's dairy farm in Wisconsin, 200 cows. Sounds like a pretty standard farm upbringing, hard work, responsibility, connection to the animals, the land.
Yeah, and even while studying dairy science at UW-Madison, she was still very involved back home on the farm.
Until that Easter break in April 2022, working on a silage bunker with her brother Sam, a routine task.
And then a slip, a fall, just like that, a complete spinal cord injury, paralysis from the waist down.
Instantaneous, life-altering, a stark reminder of how quickly things can change on a farm, and her brother witnessed it, adding another layer of trauma for the family.
Initially, understandably, her focus was on walking again, intense rehab. But she realized the injury was permanent.
And her response then was incredibly mature, wasn't it? She pivoted, shifted focus to adapting to life in a wheelchair, while still hoping for future medical breakthroughs,
That shift in mindset is so impressive. Instead of despair, she focused on regaining independence, getting back to her studies.
Returning to UW-Madison, navigating campus in a wheelchair, that takes immense courage and determination, a real force of will.
And she turned her experience into advocacy, too. She started fundraising for Agribility of Wisconsin, an organization that helped her, raised over $3,000.
Paying it forward. Using her own struggle to help others facing similar challenges in agriculture, that's remarkable.
She's also become a voice for farm safety, hasn't she? Reflecting on how familiarity can sometimes breed complacency, even with risky tasks.
Right. It's a crucial message. And she noted how the accident profoundly changed her brother's perspective on farm risks, too. It impacts the whole family.
But despite everything, her commitment to dairy farming is unwavering. She plans to go back to the family farm after graduation.
Wants to be involved in operations, help implement robotic milking, maintain their elite Holstein herd, keep showing cattle. Her passion is clearly undimmed.
She talks about finding normalcy, solace, just working with the animals. They respond to her the same way, wheelchair or not.
That connection, that sense of purpose farm life provides, it seems to be a powerful anchor for her, even with the daily challenges. Her positive attitude is just incredible.
So looking at these 3 journeys, Lexi, Reese, Sydni, what common threads really jump out? What themes connect their experiences?
Well, the first thing is just that unique resilience you often see in farm kids. There's a work ethic, a sense of responsibility, a practical outlet that seems ingrained.
And that deep connection to the farm, the animals, the family legacy. It seems to be a real source of strength, doesn't it? Something bigger than themselves to hold on to.
Absolutely. And then there's the power of the agricultural community. We saw it so clearly in each story.
Yeah, the lamb auction for Lexi, neighbors pitching in with farm work for Reese's family while they were focused on the hospital. The peer support Sydni found among other ag students.
It's this incredible web of mutual aid. People understand the demands, the unpredictability, and they just show up for each other in very real, tangible ways.
It's also clear they found different paths through their adversity, right? It wasn't one size fits all.
Exactly. Lexi drew strength from her passion, getting back to showing. Reese focused on concrete goals, like walking again, showing Pantene. Sydni found strength in adaptation, in advocacy. Resilience looks different for everyone.
And the animals. We can't overlook their role.
Definitely not. Pantene was literally therapy for Reese. Showing gave Lexi continuity, purpose. Working with calves gives Sydney that normalcy, that solace. It highlights that powerful human-animal bond.
So distilling this down, what are the big lessons here for the dairy industry, for all of us involved?
Well, number one has to be farm safety. Sydney's story is such a potent reminder. Constant vigilance, ongoing education. It's critical.
Absolutely. And second, celebrating and preserving that incredible strength of our communities. That mutual support system is invaluable. We need to nurture it.
Third, recognizing the healing power of that human-animal connection. It's real, and maybe we can leverage it even more consciously in supporting people.
And fourth, I'd say, acknowledging the resilience that farm life cultivates, especially in the next generation. We need to support and encourage that spirit.
And finally, the life-saving impact of organ donation. Lexi and Reese are living proof. It's so important to consider becoming a donor.
Good points. And it's good to know, as of this spring, April 2025, all three are moving forward. Lexi's continuing her recovery.
Reese is thriving, inspiring so many.
And Sydney's getting ready to graduate and head back to the farm, ready to make her mark. Their stories are still unfolding.
They really are. These young women, Lexi, Reese, Sydney, they truly embody the best of the dairy community, their strength, their determination. It's incredibly inspiring.
They really are the hearts of the Heartland, as the sources called them. A powerful reminder that beyond the challenges, the people are the industry's greatest asset.
Their experiences show that extraordinary capacity for resilience, for compassion, for support that exists within this community.
It really makes you reflect, doesn't it, on their strength, but also on the strength within our own communities, maybe even within ourselves.
It does. And it raises a question, maybe a challenge for all of us listening. How can we, as a dairy community, get even better at supporting individuals and families facing these kinds of unexpected, overwhelming challenges?
Yeah, and how do we actively cultivate that amazing resilience we see in Lexi, Reese, and Sydney in the next generation coming up in dairy?
Something important to think about. Their stories are just powerful testaments to the spirit of this community, bound by hard work, love for the land and animals, and looking out for one another.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this very moving deep dive today. And a huge thank you to everyone listening and to all the dedicated folks who make the dairy industry what it is.
Lexi, Reese, and Sydney remind us that adversity doesn't discriminate, but neither does hope. Their journeys teach us that resilience isn't just inherited, it's cultivated through early mornings, dirty boots, and the knowledge that no one fights alone in dairy country. If these stories moved you, share this episode with someone who needs a dose of inspiration. Subscribe to the Bullvine Podcast for more stories that celebrate the heart of agriculture. Visit www.thebullvine.com to read the full article and join the conversation. Until next time, remember, in the dairy world, every sunrise brings a new chance to milk life for all it's worth. Keep your boots muddy and your heart strong.